Hitler is a figure that brings to mind images of conflict, destruction, and the extreme reaches of human evil. Yet, how did a man who initially dreamed of becoming an artist evolve into the mastermind behind one of the most savage governments in history? Hitler's evolution from a troubled youth in Austria to the leader of Nazi Germany is a narrative of deceit, ambition, and a perilous belief system that resulted in unimaginable suffering. In this video, we will follow Hitler's life trajectory, beginning with his early years characterized by setbacks and rejection. These pivotal moments significantly influenced his perspective, which would later be driven by animosity and a quest for retribution. As we delve into his ascent to authority, we will observe how Hitler exploited the turmoil following World War I in Germany, employing propaganda and fear to unite a country behind his distorted agenda. However, comprehending Hitler's life extends beyond a mere examination of history. It involves identifying the precursors that enabled such a figure to wield power. By scrutinizing the elements that led to his ascendancy, we can gain insights into how to avert similar catastrophes in the future. This video will not only detail the life of Adolf Hitler but also contemplate the enduring effects of his deeds on the global stage. Adolf Hitler, one of history's most infamous figures, was born on April 20, 1889, in the small Austrian town of Braun am Inn, near the German border. His early life was shaped by a strict and often turbulent family environment. His father, Adolf Hitler, was a stern customs official who demanded obedience and discipline. Alois had a difficult relationship with young Adolf, often imposing his will through harsh punishment. This rigid upbringing left a significant mark on Hitler, fostering a rebellious streak and a deep resentment towards authority. His mother, Clara Hitler, on the other hand, was a more nurturing and loving figure. She doted on Adolf, and their close relationship became a source of comfort for him amidst the stern atmosphere created by his father. However, Clara's frequent illnesses and eventual death when Hitler was just 18 years old left him devastated, intensifying his already complex emotional state. As a student, Hitler showed little interest in school and struggled to meet the expectations placed on him. He was a dreamer, more interested in art and the romantic ideals of German nationalism than in academic pursuits. His grades were poor, and he frequently clashed with his teachers, leading to his eventual withdrawal from formal education. Hitler's lack of success in school only deepened his sense of alienation and failure, feelings that would later manifest in more dangerous ways. In 1907, Hitler moved to Vienna with the hope of pursuing his passion for art. He applied to the prestigious Academy of Fine Arts Vienna, but to his dismay, he was rejected, not once, but twice. This rejection was a critical blow to Hitler's self-esteem and aspirations. Vienna, during this time, was a city of diverse cultures and ideas, but also one rife with political and social tensions. It was here that Hitler's views on race, nationalism, and anti-Semitism began to solidify. Living in poverty, Hitler spent the next few years in Vienna working odd jobs and barely scraping by. He lived in a men's hostel, isolated and increasingly embittered by his circumstances. It was during these years that Hitler began to absorb the virulent anti-Semitic rhetoric that was prevalent in certain circles of Viennese society. He became fixated on the idea that Jews were to blame for his misfortunes and the broader decline of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Hitler's time in Vienna also exposed him to the ideas of nationalism and the concept of the Aryan race, which would later become central to his ideology. He read extensively, drawing inspiration from nationalist writers and thinkers who advocated for the superiority of the Germanic peoples. These ideas, combined with his growing resentment and sense of failure, began to form the foundation of the worldview that would later drive his actions as leader of the Nazi Party. By the time Hitler left Vienna in 1913, he was a changed man. The city, which he once saw as the gateway to his dreams, had become a symbol of his failures and the source of his radical ideas. Following his departure from Vienna in 1913, Adolf Hitler relocated to Munich, Germany, where his destiny was about to change significantly. As World War I erupted in 1914, Hitler was keen to join the German military, seeing it as an opportunity to validate himself and fight for a cause that was more important than his own personal challenges. He displayed courage on the battlefield, receiving multiple awards, notably the Iron Cross, which filled him with great pride. Yet, Germany's defeat in 1918 shattered Hitler's spirit, leaving him disillusioned and resentful. He saw the Treaty of Versailles as a betrayal, intensifying his hatred towards the country's leaders and the Jewish community, whom he wrongly blamed for Germany's defeat. In the aftermath of the war, Hitler discovered his niche in the political arena. He became a member of a minor nationalist organization, which he soon led into the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or the Nazi Party. His powerful speeches, along with his knack for exploiting the widespread anger and fear among the German people, propelled him to prominence. By the early 1920s, Hitler emerged as the public face of the Nazi Party, captivating his followers with pledges to bring Germany back to its former splendor. With his grip on power firmly established, Adolf Hitler began to execute his vision for Germany and the world, leading to the outbreak of World War II and the horrors of the Holocaust. Hitler's expansionist ambitions became clear in the late 1930s when he orchestrated the annexation of Austria in 1938, followed by the occupation of Czechoslovakia. These moves were driven by his belief in the need for Lebensraum, or living space, for the Aryan race. Hitler's aggressive actions went largely unchallenged by European powers, emboldening him further. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, triggering the start of World War II. This marked the beginning of a brutal conflict that would engulf the entire world. As the war progressed, Hitler's forces unleashed a campaign of conquest across Europe, swiftly occupying France, the Netherlands, Belgium, and much of Eastern Europe. The rapid success of the German military, known as Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, was a testament to Hitler's strategy of overwhelming force and surprise. However, this relentless pursuit of territorial expansion was driven by more than just military ambition. It was also fueled by Hitler's deeply ingrained racist ideology. Central to Hitler's plans was the systematic extermination of the Jews, whom he viewed as the ultimate enemy of the Aryan race. This hatred culminated in the Holocaust, one of the most horrific atrocities in human history. Beginning in 1941, the Nazi regime implemented the Final Solution, a plan to annihilate the Jewish population of Europe. Jews were rounded up from their homes, forced into ghettos, and later transported to concentration camps where they were subjected to unimaginable cruelty. The most notorious of these camps was Auschwitz, where over 1 million people were murdered. But the Holocaust was not limited to Jews alone. Hitler's regime also targeted Romani people, disabled individuals, political dissidents, and others deemed undesirable. The scale of the genocide was staggering, with 6 million Jews and millions of others systematically murdered by the end of the war. The Nazis' use of gas chambers, mass shootings, forced labor, and starvation to achieve their genocidal goals was a chilling demonstration of the depths of human cruelty. As Hitler's ambitions grew, so too did the resistance against him. The tide began to turn against Germany with the failed invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941 and the entry of the United States into the war following the attack on Pearl Harbor. Despite initial successes, Hitler's overextended military began to falter, and the once unstoppable Nazi war machine started to crumble. The Allies, consisting of the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom, launched a series of offensives that slowly pushed back the German forces. By 1944, the Nazis were on the defensive, and the horrors of the Holocaust were being uncovered by advancing Allied troops. The liberation of concentration camps revealed the full extent of the atrocities committed under Hitler's regime, shocking the world and ensuring that the memory of these events would never be forgotten. The final blow came in 1945 when Berlin fell to the Soviet forces, and Hitler, realizing his dream of a 1,000-year Reich had collapsed, took his own life in his bunker. The legacy of World War II and the Holocaust is one of unparalleled destruction and human suffering. Hitler's actions not only led to the deaths of millions but also reshaped the world in ways that are still felt today. The war left Europe in ruins, and the Holocaust remains a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked hatred and totalitarianism. Adolf Hitler's downfall was as dramatic and catastrophic as his rise to power. The seeds of his collapse were sown in the very ambitions that had driven his meteoric ascent. Hitler's obsessive pursuit of territorial expansion, rooted in his belief in Aryan supremacy and the need for Lebensraum, ultimately led to his undoing. By 1941, the tide of World War II began to turn against Germany, as Hitler's grand plans met the harsh realities of global warfare. The turning point came with Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941. Hitler believed that a swift and decisive victory over the Soviet Union would secure Germany's dominance in Europe. However, he grossly underestimated the resilience of the Soviet forces and the severity of the Russian winter. The initial German advance was rapid, but as winter set in, the Nazis found themselves ill-prepared for the brutal conditions. The Battle of Stalingrad, which raged from August 1942 to February 1943, became a symbol of Hitler's hubris. The German Sixth Army, once the pride of the Wehrmacht, was encircled and ultimately destroyed, marking the first major defeat for Nazi Germany and a significant blow to Hitler's prestige. As the war dragged on, Hitler's strategic decisions became increasingly erratic and detached from reality. His refusal to allow retreats or tactical withdrawals, driven by his belief in the absolute will to victory, led to catastrophic losses on multiple fronts. The Allied invasion of Normandy in June 1944, known as D-Day, marked another critical moment in Hitler's downfall. The successful landing of Allied forces in France opened up a Western front, forcing Germany to fight a two-front war. Despite Hitler's orders for relentless counterattacks, the German forces were unable to repel the Allies, who steadily advanced towards Germany. Hitler's health and mental state also deteriorated as the war progressed. By the final years of the conflict, he was a shadow of the charismatic leader who had once captivated crowds with his fiery speeches. Reports from those close to him indicate that Hitler suffered from severe anxiety, insomnia, and possibly Parkinson's disease. His reliance on a cocktail of medications, administered by his personal physician, only exacerbated his physical and mental decline. Hitler's inner circle, once filled with loyal followers, began to fracture as key figures like Heinrich Himmler and Hermann Göring sought to distance themselves from the increasingly desperate Führer. In the winter of 1944 to 1945, as Allied forces closed in on Germany from the west and Soviet troops advanced from the east, Hitler retreated to his bunker in Berlin. Isolated from the outside world and surrounded by sycophants, he continued to issue unrealistic orders and clung to the hope that a miracle weapon or a sudden change in fortune would turn the tide of the war. However, by April 1945, it was clear that the end was near. The Soviet Red Army had encircled Berlin, and the city was subjected to relentless bombardment. In his final days, Hitler's delusions of victory gave way to a grim acceptance of defeat. On April 29, 1945, he married his longtime companion, Eva Braun, in a brief ceremony in the bunker. The next day, realizing that his dream of a thousand-year Reich had been reduced to rubble, Hitler and Braun took their own lives. Hitler swallowed a cyanide capsule and shot himself in the head, while Braun took poison. Their bodies were discovered by Hitler's aides, who quickly burned them to prevent them from falling into Soviet hands. The death of Adolf Hitler marked the end of the Nazi regime, but the legacy of his rule would haunt Europe for generations. The war had left the continent devastated, with millions dead, cities in ruins, and a deep scar on the collective conscience of humanity. The Nuremberg trials, held after the war, sought to bring the surviving Nazi leaders to justice. But the full extent of the atrocities committed under Hitler's rule would take years to fully comprehend. Hitler's downfall serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the devastating consequences of totalitarianism. His rise and fall are a testament to the fragility of human civilization and the importance of vigilance in the face of those who seek to exploit fear and hatred for their own gain. As the world rebuilt in the aftermath of World War II, the memory of Hitler's reign served as a powerful warning of the perils of dictatorship and the enduring need for democracy and human rights. The impact of Adolf Hitler's rule is deeply dark, a legacy that still looms large in the world, even many years after his passing. His reputation is now linked with malevolence, mass murder, and the atrocities of a dictatorship. The destruction he caused during World War II and the Holocaust is unparalleled in recent history, leaving a lasting imprint on the collective memory. The Holocaust, in particular, stands as a vivid warning of the extreme cruelty of humanity and the fallout of unchecked hatred. The organized killing of 6 million Jews, along with countless others considered unwanted, stands as one of the most appalling examples of what can occur when a government is fueled by racial prejudice and a quest for total control. The accounts of survivors and the undeniable proof found in the concentration camps guarantee that the memory of these crimes will remain forever. More than just the immediate effects of his deeds, Hitler's legacy also altered the political and social landscape of the world. The conflict resulted in the rise of the United States and the Soviet Union as dominant powers, laying the groundwork for the Cold War. It also led to the creation of the United Nations, a body designed to prevent such conflicts in the future. Hitler's rule highlighted the perils of propaganda, the susceptibility of societies in turmoil, and the devastating outcomes of unchecked dictatorship. His legacy serves as a strong cautionary tale of the importance of vigilance, education, and the protection of human rights to prevent the emergence of future dictators.